Welcome to the Contreras Report. I am Raul Lowry Contreras, your correspondent. We are in the middle of July, almost the middle of summer, and at the vigorous kickoff of a presidential race that is a race like never before. We who breathe and sleep politics were all glued to our television sets last Saturday to watch Donald Trump give his last speech before the Republican National Convention. Most people watching weren't interested in what Trump might say, other than waiting to see who Trump would name as his running mate running for vice president. Here, let me share with you the editorial I wrote for my Substack, raulcsubstack.com. That's raulc.substack.com. 2 hours after the shooting. Political assassinations in the U.S. No, by Raul Lowry Contreras. Fact: a suspected shooter was killed by security around a large crowd in Butler, Pennsylvania, listening to former President Donald J. Trump speak as he was struck by a bullet fired from the top of a building some distance from the former president by a single man in full view of witnesses. No, no assassination attempts are acceptable of anyone in the U.S. running for political office. No violence is acceptable today, July 13th, or January 6, 2017, or the day we almost lost Ronald Reagan when he had been president for just 2 months. The Reagan attempt came close to ending his presidency by an inch or so. The bullet that almost killed President Reagan missed his vitals by a millimeter or two. The same is true about the attempt on former President Donald J. Trump. The bullet actually hit Mr. Trump. It apparently went through the upper part of his right ear, 1 inch away from his brain. The shooter, killed immediately, is unknown at this moment, as is his motive. I am assuming that he was a man. Women are not well known as sniper good shooters of rifles like we assume was used here, except in the minds of screenwriters who lately have elevated women to high status as accomplished assassins and terrorists. In the movies, of course. This man was seen walking across a neighboring field carrying a rifle. Did protective men and women, the Secret Service, see this man? Did anyone who saw him think he was a protector? Who shot and killed him? Was the shooting part of a conspiracy? I know this isn't a movie, it's real life. But I'm ask that again. Was the shooting part of a conspiracy? Questions, questions, questions. We need answers to what we saw happen less than 2 hours ago on live television. Back to Butler, Pennsylvania. Standing on his stage holding a 99% backdrop of white Pennsylvania, mostly rural farmer types of heavily Donald J. Trump supporters, he turned to his right to refer to a large sign, a chart, with immigration numbers on it he wanted to talk about. Campaign talk. Just then, Trump stopped speaking. He reached up with his right hand and touched his face. Blood running down his face. Former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, had been shot. Down he went, with Secret Service agents swarming all over, covering him as much as possible and moving him off the stage to an armored SUV and to the hospital. The man people still call Mr. President came within an inch of having his brains splattered all over that audience. A dead Donald Trump shot in the head by a knockoff AR-15 rifle would have been what we all saw. All millions of us around the world would have been witnesses to the death of a president. I was shocked. Not so much as to the shot, but how could anyone have been close enough to have that accurate of a shot? Face it, only Trump's turn of his head to look at the immigration chart saved his life. Not Secret Service agents, they weren't where they were supposed to be. On the very building's roof, the shooter was on just 130 yards from Trump's head. If you're not an experienced rifle shooter, 130 yards, almost a football field and a third in size, sounds like a long way, but it's not. I'm sure most of you know that I served in the United States Marine Corps, and I'm sure you know that when I served back in the 50s and 60s, when I served, all Marines were world famous for being riflemen. Let me tell you, 130 yards is nothing for a rifle shooter to shoot well, to shoot accurately. In fact, to be a good one, you have to be able to shoot at 500 yards. 130 yards is nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, the shooting of Donald J. Trump missed being a total catastrophe for America and the world by a single inch. That incident Saturday focused on the candidate, but the campaign had been disrupted almost 2 weeks earlier when CNN, the cable news network, hosted the campaign's first debate between President Biden and former President Trump. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, flopped miserably in the debate. He was so bad, so old, he couldn't even wipe the floor with Trump, who spent the entire time lying on and about every subject he talked about. Yes, he lied on every subject he spoke about. It wasn't just my opinion. Every fact checker supports that statement. CNN said nothing during the debate. They didn't challenge him at all. Biden said nothing. He could barely talk. President Joe Biden was helpless for 90 minutes. Joe Biden was a shell of a man. He was helpless, helpless, helpless. Within minutes of the CNN sign-off, elected Democratic congresspeople started dumping Biden and demanding the Democratic Party choose another candidate. That would be another candidate that wouldn't take down numerous Democrats from the House of Representatives and more than 2 senators, which would give Republicans control of both houses of Congress and the White House, assuming Trump wins. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what thoughtful politicals might think might happen. Many Democrats are totally fearful that it might happen with President Biden heading the Democratic presidential ticket. The question is, are there enough Republicans and independents who wonder if Trump is a good idea, if Donald Trump is even responsible enough to run the entire federal government? There are many, many doubters, not just never Trumpers, but just plain ordinary Democrats, Republicans, and independents. The question is he responsible enough to run the entire federal government? So, there is a conundrum facing America in the next 3 months and some days. With Biden running for re-election, does he have enough energy and mental acuity to win re-election, or will Trump and Republicans take control of the entire government? Within days of the failed assassination, Trump named a freshman senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, as his running mate. That man's selection itself makes history. On top of an assassination that didn't work and the nomination of Trump to run for president again, that history is of President Grover Cleveland, who was defeated after one term and came back and won the second term. Other than what Cleveland did, no other president has succeeded at what Trump is attempting to do. Back to Vance. He is the first former United States Marine to run for vice president or president. At 39, he may be one of the youngest ever to run for each office. As of this moment, Biden is still the Democrat candidate. However, it isn't set in stone as of now and won't be until he is formally nominated or rejected by the Democratic Party convention in August. Let me close with this. This has been a crazy week, unlike any in American political history or history, just plain history. An assassination attempt that fails, a failure of the Secret Service to completely protect the former President of the United States, that's point number 1. 2, the complete takeover of the Republican Party by Donald J. Trump. 3, the nomination of a senatorial rookie, a freshman, a former United States Marine, J.D. Vance, to run for vice president, the 90-minute torture of watching a 50-year veteran of the Senate 2 terms as vice president and 1 term as president, Joe Biden to literally wither in front of TV cameras and politically disappear as a bona fide candidate for reelection. That is the blunt, naked truth of what we spent 90 minutes watching back a couple weeks ago. We have no idea what's going to happen between now and Tuesday, November 5th. We don't know who is going to win, though every clue we have today is that Trump can win and take the House and Senate with him. Also, as of today. We don't know, but the Contreras Report is on top of the news and will report everything important between now and then so that you viewers will know what is happening from the top levels of American politics and the American campaign. Before we finish, please subscribe here on YouTube and tell your friends to do so also so that you will know when we issue a new report, and so will they if they subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to me. And that's Raul, small letters, Raul, R-A-O-U-L, at HispanicCommentator.com. Hispanic Commentator is one word, and it has 2 C's and 2 M's. And don't forget the .com. I'll read your comments or questions, and I will comment if you wish. Let me announce for the first time, this really truly is the first time, that we are constructing a new website that will direct you to soon. We'll direct you there as quickly as possible. And we'll launch 2 weekly national newsletters, hopefully around the first week of September. One will be Hispanic America Today. Will come out twice a week and will be with news from the entire Hispanic American community all over the country. People from Cuba, Venezuela, Chile, Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina, Guatemala, Panama. We will have news from all of those places in Hispanic America Today because tons of those people are here in the United States. They've legally immigrated here and are contributing members of society, soon to be citizens if they're not already. And we're launching this Hispanic America Today for them to meet you or for you to meet them. Okay? Remember this, there's 65 million Hispanic Americans today in the United States. The second newsletter will be for our Mexican American friends, our Mexican friends like me, born in Mexico. And we have the Mex America News that will come out also twice a week with news about Mexican Americans and Mexico. So there'll be 2 separate newsletters. You can subscribe to both of them if you want. It's not going to be very expensive. We'll have more news on those new items in future broadcasts. That's all for today's Contreras Report. Today, we'll have another edition soon. We're working on it already. Subscribe, and you will be notified when the Contreras Report will be on YouTube again with a new edition. That's the end of our broadcast today. Thank you so much for being there. We really appreciate you, and we hope that you appreciate us. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.